So, what's the biggest hurdle you think people thinking of romance today will face? Or what do you think people are afraid of when they want to enter a relationship?
I think for me, and looking around all the people like around me, and listening to my friends sharing about their experiences, there's this common fear of giving your heart completely away and just entrusting it to the hand of a man, and it's like it's everything you got, and once it's shattered, you take like a whole lifetime to heal from it. And I heard of so many stories of how people can't truly get over their exes and all these things, especially for the woman, because you're completely at risk of being shattered. But I feel like that's only when you're so committed to the person, I think. And it's really hard to be like commit like that, to just dive right in.
Which you did. But it's interesting because the struggle for guys is to be in a position where, like, the struggle for guys is to be in a position where you can talk to girls, or girls will actually like you, I feel like. And just getting to that point of being ready to actually like have someone who actually feels good about you and feels safe with you is, I think, the biggest hurdle today, because of the I feel like it's caused by a lot of like the lack of present fathers in the home, or just outright absent fathers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's reversed for men and women. It's like women worry about what happens when you're in a relationship, but for men, it's what happens, everything that happens before, like getting to that point of going up to that girl and asking her
like
out.
the readiness
And everything, getting ready for that. And then I think the thing for guys is like there's a common trope that like when guys get married, they get fat. Like they just get lazy.
Yeah, I heard of like women telling me like, oh, this guy was like pursuing me before the relationship, and then after like he got me, like he changed, and like going to marriage, it's never the same, and this guy just like treated you like you're his mom, and he's only appreciative of you because he wants you to take care of him.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty sad. I think one of my mentors, Elliot Holtz, definitely talks about that as well. Like men having that mother wound because of a lack of a father in the home, and having to like go into a marriage and expecting the wife to be his mum, rather than him stepping up and taking up the responsibility, like he should have seen his father do, but he never saw that. So yeah, how would you say that? Okay, so full disclosure, you came from a family that wasn't very positive, and your dad wasn't around. So how would you say that has impacted you and your perception of relationships?
I definitely had trust issues with men, obviously, and a lot of negative point of view about marriage and how it's not meant for me. Because just seeing how many failed marriages there are, and seeing that the risk of being shattered for me is too great. It's too great to risk it. And I've seen like firsthand how terrible it can be, and it just builds up in me over time, this resentment of entrusting my whole being to a man, and the act of surrendering feels so foreign to me, because I've never seen anyone who could do it well and be received and taken care of from doing that. I've only seen the opposite of how they are hurt when they do that.
So you mean like marriage? Getting to marriage.
Exactly. Getting to marriage and surrendering to a man and giving your whole heart to him. And it's definitely something that is really scary because you're so vulnerable.
Yeah, and like coming from your family as well, like your mum talked about how you should be independent, get a job, and just like never trust in a man, or like never trust with your life to someone, just to work hard and pursue that career yourself.
Yeah.
How would you say that's like impacted your like life choices or like your decisions?
It definitely brought this like boss baby mentality to me, especially in this world now where this woman empowerment and everything is so glorified. It played to my advantage to think that I can actually thrive from this. And then I would look at all these like Instagram influencers of travel, like traveling influencers, and I'm like, I'm going to be like them one day, and really like desiring to be like them, to be able to handle everything, to be able to not rely on anyone, to be independent, which in a sense it's not a bad trait. But then the way that we are encouraged to pursue that is to discard and to dismiss.
It's to resent.
Yeah. It's
Mm.
from a place of resentment. It's not from a place of love. And it's interesting because these influencers, they really wanted to be seen, and they're doing all these things because they want the world to recognize them. They still, a part of them wants to be seen. And that's an interesting like
Seen
thing.
and to be loved.
To be seen and to loved and to be received. And that's the core of who we are as a woman, is to be received and to be loved completely. But because of how broken everything is, sometimes, a lot of the times it's not possible to give yourself away and to be expected to expect to be received, you know? I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, see, I came from before I got into a relationship with her, I came from a place of I guess it was kind of like tied with self-improvement, and I think a lot of my videos now are centered around this idea of like refuting the stuff they're teaching, because I'm coming fully out of that and looking back. I think a lot of masculine role models today in the media are really just the opposite, like the inverse of what the feminist agenda is. Like what they want to do is they want to make you like this person who is able to sleep with so many women, or like able to entertain so many relationships, or be so rich where you don't have to suck up to anyone. And that's actually really damaging as well, because now you're drawing men away from their true calling to actually pour their love and their attention and effort into a family and into their legacy, which is truly what it's about. You know, these people might even talk about legacy. They might even talk about like making a name for yourself and all these things. But what is legacy but literally your children who's going to carry your name, right? If you're never going to be in a committed marriage, you're never going to have children who actually respect you and love you, how will you carry your legacy at all? Like, maybe you build something.
What will you be remembered for? It's like at your funeral, it's just a bunch of...
It's just like, what your business partners, like what? Like your employees, like who's going to come to your funeral? You know, your mum who's still alive somehow. Like...
Yeah, I want to be remembered for all the works and all the hours I put into my...
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, there's a part of that that's true. Like, you want to work hard and put yourself in a position where you're working for something that's going to last. I mean, that's totally valid. But what's not valid is putting more effort into something that's actually not going to be as fulfilling as having kids and having them do what you do. Like that idea of a progeny is greater than any job or career legacy you can build, because it's literally a human life who's going to live longer than you are. So we have this weird dichotomy where the feminists are telling women to resent marriage, and these like so-called masculine role models are telling men to do the same, and they're telling men to run away from marriage and say marriage is a lie, women are just gonna trick you into divorce you and then take all your money. I mean, valid concerns, right? But the whole problem is the feminists and these people. They're just fighting each other like this. And I would say, chicken or the egg. I would say it's the feminist movement who started doing this and who's promoted this idea of women are taking advantage of men in marriage and just dismissing it. But in a sense, the true solution is not to clash at one another and to lie to one another and say our marriage or our family is not as important as my career or my whatever you want to build.
I really agree with that as well. Yeah.
I would just say, like, leaving all that behind, like all that feminist beliefs behind, how does that change your life?
I feel like it's now transformed into a belief that it doesn't make me less of a woman at all to leave behind feminist belief, not because it's not true, even though a part of it isn't true, but a part of it is true, but the solution is, like you said, it's not.
Yeah, the problem they're addressing is something that's tangible. Like, we can argue about whether it's valid, but it's tangible. Like it's a thing. It's a thing. But the way they're approaching it, and the results they're getting from it, and also the
like
products, the fruits.
Feminism can solve the problem that feminists are posing, and they're still bitter about it, because if it's truly solved, they won't be so bitter about it even today.
That's true.
And people are still fighting so much, and it's just like a cycle that just haven't ended. And I feel like the reason is because it's addressing a problem that they can't solve from their agenda. Because what is at the root and the cause, and like inside all women, and speaking as a woman myself, it's this desire to be loved and seen and be received as who we are, with all of the value that we have been created with. And for men, we want to surrender to a man who is capable to lead the family and to take care of me, and to be able to rest in that surrender, not to be able not just like constantly fighting and striving. Obviously, if the relationship is there's so much fighting and all these things, like who would want to be in one, right? Yeah. So leaving that behind is when I realized that true love is possible, and it's not all about games, and it's not all about selfish intentions. Like when you truly feel committed to someone, even at the cost of yourself, you are willing to go in, not because you don't care about yourself, but because you know that person is equally reciprocating that to you, and that they are willing to do anything to cherish you and to protect you, even if they might fall short in one way, sometimes or another. You know that they don't mean to, and they're actually like sorry about it, and not just being pathetically like apologetic and not changing anything. Like you can know if it's sincere or not, and that's what I want to emphasize on. It's this like complete surrender to each other. Like the man completely willing to lay down his life,
living behind his single life.
Yeah, and the woman completely willing to follow. The man
like
completely
giving up yourself to
lead. Yeah, that's like when true complete love is there. Is that? Yeah.
It's like you can only get that in a marriage, like because you're actually committed. It's not just, oh yeah, I kind of like you, and if I don't like you anymore, I'm just gonna dip. Like
Yeah.
that's not love. That's
Yeah,
not commitment.
exactly. Yeah.
But it's really sad because I think the feminists think that marriage is like that as well,
Yeah.
and the world thinks that marriage is like that as well, which shouldn't be that way.
Yeah.
Because God decreed that marriage was sacred and that
Yeah.
it was, like, I don't know, I forgot what Jesus said about it, like something about, like he said, like, because of the hardness of your hearts, in the days of Moses, he allowed divorce, but it was not so in the beginning. That's what he said. And I think that's really important to understand is that the true solution to what the feminists and these playboys are actually looking for is marriage. It's the thing that's going to solve the problem. But obviously, not everyone who's actually a proponent of those movements actually want to solve the problem. They just want to be bitter and angry and cry about it. And yeah, that's the sad reality, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, but how would you say life is different now? As well?
It
I don't know
feels
if you
like
answered that, but I'm still asking again.
yeah, it feels like I don't have to strive to be loved and to be seen.
Yeah, because that's
Yeah.
honestly what women seek after.
Yeah, yeah. Like even like all these travel influencers and all these boss babes, like the way they do everything is centered around that desire, and it's so subconscious.
It's like
it just
you're
comes
doing
out.
it so that other people can look at you doing it.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
And in a sense, they want to be a role model because they want to be a mother. It's that mother aspect to be able to like lead these children who are following them, like. And it's not bad. It's just your natural like aspect of who you are.
But like, what are you doing influencing on Instagram when you can be raising like, kids?
Yeah, that's true. And it's not like you can't do that if you have a family. It's not like you have to leave behind
depends how
all
many
these
kids you have.
things. Yeah.
Depends how many kids you have.
But it's not like you can't still do the things you love.
Exactly, you don't have to
Yeah,
give up.
you don't have to give up.
Unless it's literally like contrary to your marriage. Like, you don't have to give up your hobbies. You don't have to give up
Exactly.
your interests. And it's not just like throwing your life away. Like, if you marry a good husband, he's gonna let you do what you like, do what you love.
I think that a lot of misconceptions that marriage is a trap. You can't do the things you love. You won't have time. You won't have the energy.
Because he's gonna make you do the chores all the time, and you're gonna suffer and be miserable.
Yeah. The thing is like, for me, it's like if you love your family, you will just want to do all these things for them, but then you will find the time to do the things that gives you life as well. And it's all part of who you are, like family and hobbies. It's not two separate things. They're all intertwined.
Yeah.
Because I think for me, I do want to be able to continue doing music and painting and all these things that I enjoy in a family as well, because I want my children to look at me and see that a mom isn't restricted, a mom is more free, because she can raise children and raise her kids and still be able to do the things that she loves. And that is a way to teach them, is to show them that you can enjoy life as a mom.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like, I feel like the people who, again, like, I think this might sound kind of like out of touch, because I do want to acknowledge that what we're committed to is something that's not the norm today. But it is true that like, if you as a husband do care about your wife enough, like, you will give her all the freedom to do what she wants. I mean, obviously, I'm not talking about like flying to France every week and meeting a bunch of guys, like what these influencers are doing, and just sleeping around. Like, obviously, I don't mean that, but I mean, the reason why they would frame marriage as something that would restrict you and control you, it's ultimately about like, it actually has a lot to do with other things that I won't go into, but in a sense, like, they're saying all these because they're just resentful of what's actually in it. Like, obviously marriage has restrictions. Obviously marriage is exclusive and you can't go be with anyone else once you're married, right? But there's joy in that if it's actually committed, if if you're both actually willing to grow with one another and bear with one another, there's joy in the simple things, and there's joy in perseverance. It's not just life isn't just about getting fast cars and fast pleasures. It's about building something with someone, you know?
Yeah, and that's really fulfilling. That's when the real thing is.
Yeah, that's
like
where the real thing is. Like,
the goal.
we can get all the pleasure we want, but all these things just burn us out, you know?
Yeah.
They don't actually add anything to us. They just take from us to feel something. But, you know, in a sense, like, I think even people like Jordan Peterson, he talks about the idea of like I talked about in the last video, like fighting this dragon, you know, like putting in the challenge, putting your head down and challenging yourself to actually build something and making your life mean something. In a sense, like, I would argue that a lot of these influencers who go and do all these things, or these like Playboy influence, like masculine role models, do all these things to find fulfillment. They want to feel something in their lives. They want to actually feel a worthy life. Yeah, and they go and take that on their followers. They're like, oh, you people, the fact that I get to lead you, the fact that I get to influence you, means that I have power over you, means that I have a worthy life, right? And so, in a sense, like, if you don't find your fulfillment in family, you're going to find it in something else, and it's not going to actually be something that you can build upon, and something you can cherish and last, because you don't even have the right motives in place. You're running away from what it means to be human. I mean, like, having children is one of the foundations of humanity. And if we don't have children, we're not going to have a society. We're not going to have anything. We're not going to have humans. And it's like, why would you go and run away from what you already have?
That is already given.
This is already fulfilling. It's like, what's more fulfilling than raising a human being? Honestly.
Yes. Next to someone you love and someone who loves you.
Yes. It might sound a little disjointed, but it just feels like all the benefits you can get from a marriage and raising a family is, all the benefits you can get from being an influencer or making tons of money and doing all these things can ultimately be found in marriage. It can ultimately be found in marriage. Family, raising children, and also people talk about building a legacy and all these things. I mean, what is a legacy? Then your children. They're the ones who carry your name. They're the ones who's going to look up to you and follow what you do and continue doing what you're doing. And if you actually do well as a family, as a father, I'm thinking about this. I want my children, grandchildren and their children down the line, to remember what I did and to remember what my kids did, and think favorably about that and act accordingly. What's more honorable and what's more satisfying than that? Knowing that the people who come after you want to continue doing what you're doing. That has generational 100-year implications, greater than running an influencer empire, or like promoting all these things and making tons of money. For what? Like, fast money. What are you gonna do? Is it gonna last for 4 or 5 generations? Is it gonna be here 200 years from now? Can you guarantee that? Probably not. So yeah, and also I think in the other take we talked about, like, who's gonna go to your funeral if you just spend all your time working and not having kids? Like, who's gonna be like, are you just gonna spend your life working and then building something and then for no one to look after it when you're gone? I guess a lot of people maybe today might even be thinking about having kids later, and when they've built everything, right? Which is valid as well, but I just think that the focus is in the wrong place. Marriage is not contradictory to a lot of things that people think are contradictory to. And I think it's time we start to look at marriage differently, family differently, and to stop seeing it as a restriction, and stop seeing it as something that's bad and it's going to hamper down on our pleasures and desires. Of course, it's going to hamper down your pleasures and desires for the better, for the continuation of humanity. What's better than that? But yeah, I think it all just comes down to actually, this is the hardest thing, and I'm not gonna make light of this, but it's to find the right person. It's to find someone by the right person I mean someone who's actually genuinely committed, someone who's actually, as a guy, finding someone who's actually going to follow you, someone who's actually you can take and lead down somewhere that's going to be good for the both of you, right? And for the woman, that would mean someone who's actually going to be able to take care of you.
Yeah,
Someone's able to love you.
Lead me, and someone I can trust, someone I can see that I can naturally surrender. Like I don't have to strive to try to fit in. I don't have to force myself to compliment him. You know, it's like someone that I just naturally admire and look up to. Yeah.
And that's harder than it sounds, I think, because I think for a lot of guys and girls, we have this kind of it's either awkwardness or it's this like resentment towards the opposite sex in some way, like because they've experienced relationships where the other person's done something wrong to them or vice versa. But yeah, just wanted to have a conversation. So this has been me and Vanessa. Hopefully we can see you guys next time. I'll probably name the video something funny like just get a girlfriend, bro, or something. But yeah, hope you enjoy this one.
Yeah, thanks.